Okay, I'll tell the story about my teacher at the school I didn't like. First, I'll show you a picture that was taken of myself and my sister, my young sister Michelle, um, about a year prior to that. A little less than a year prior. A little less than a year prior to that. This phone is all cracked up. But there we are, in front of an Ames department store in northern New York State, during the summer of 1979. She's the one on the horse. I know that those shorts look a bit like a skirt, but they were shorts. Just to reassure you, they were shorts. Um, don't normally show off my legs anymore, but anyway, my phone's all cracked up, so the old phone is there that I'm showing you the picture on, so yeah, that's why the picture may not be all that clear, but that was me and my young sister anyway. Now, what had happened was, I told the story in a video that's just uploaded now, but we ended up at it was a defunct Grey Nuns convent in Eganville, Ontario that was serving as a shelter. We ended up there in 1980. It was like May of 1980 when we ended up there. And anyway, the school next door was a school called St. James the Lesser School. It was abandoned for years and years, and then tore down recently. But it was abandoned sometime in the late 80s or early 90s. But I went there in 1980 for about 6 weeks. Anyway, finished out the school year there. Didn't like it. And I'll tell you why I didn't like it. There was a variety of reasons, but I'll tell you the main reasons anyway. I'll tell you the story of my first day there to start. After we got up to Eganville and settled into the shelter, the old convent, and I explained why the convent was no longer a convent in the previous video about the girl with the yellow hair, if you want to know the backstory there. Basically, it was for economic reasons. They combined two convents, is what they did. The Grey Nuns Order, which was a dying order, just combined the Eganville and Renfrew Convent into one convent. All the sisters from Eganville moved to the Renfrew Convent, and they closed the Eganville Convent. Anyway, here we go. What had happened was, after I'd been there a few days, I had to get enrolled in school. I was 12. So, got enrolled in the school next door. I was a Catholic, and so it was a separate school. It was right next door. And so I got enrolled in there, and then, of course, had to go to school for my first day, the day after I got enrolled. So we were in Eganville for the better part of a week before I had to go to school. But then I had to go to school. So my first day of school there, I leave the convent in the morning. I walk down about half a block, halfway down the block, and go in there to the schoolyard, which was beside the school, early in the morning. Of course, the kids were already there too, the different ones that went to school there. The first thing I saw, now this school only went up to grade 8. The first thing I noticed anyway when I went in there was this great big guy. I swear he was over 6 feet tall, and he must have weighed 400 pounds. And he was laying on his belly in the dirt, in the dust in the yard, and he's drawing on the ground with a stick. He'd draw pictures with a stick, and then he'd rub them out, and he'd draw more pictures with a stick. And I thought, oh boy, what kind of a place is this, And yeah, it was quite a thing. He wouldn't have been any more than about 13 years old, that kid. And here he was, drawing pictures in the dirt there, and he was huge. He was bigger than most men. When I say he was over 6 feet tall and probably weighed 400 pounds, I'm not kidding. Anyway, the funny thing about that is, though, after I'd been there for a while, I screwed up my courage and went over there to see what he was drawing. And he was actually good. He was a really good artist. He had a lot of talent. You know, it was kind of a shame in a way that all his pictures got obliterated so that he could draw another one. He'd rub them out and draw another one, you know. But he just working in the dirt with a stick or whatever, he made beautiful art. And so, yeah, I often wonder about that guy now, what became of him, you know. I don't know if he suffered from gigantism or what, but there was something going on there with that fellow anyway. He was abnormally large, I'll tell you. But I often do wonder what became of him anyway. He was quite a talented artist, so I hope that he was able to put that talent to use later on in life, you know. Yeah, anyway, wish him well, that's all. Wasn't a bad guy, was just freakishly big. I mean, freakishly big. Anyway, so then the bell rings, we all got to go inside. I get upstairs to my classroom. Well, first I had to report to the principal, that was the thing, and then he took me up to the classroom. So the other kids were already seated when I was brought in. The principal turned me over to Mrs. White. Now, Mrs. White was a short, plump woman with curly white hair, and just a shock of curly white hair on the top of her head, basically, and mean woman, really mean. Anyway, I don't know who hurt her in life, but she was mean, you know, and possibly had her reasons. I guess everybody has their reasons for being how they are, but I don't know what those reasons were. I only know that she was really mean. She was not a happy person. And nobody was going to be allowed to be happy in her presence, I'll tell you that right now. So what she did is she introduced me to the class as the son of one of those whores next door who were unable to keep a man and therefore had to put the sisters out of their home and so that they could take it over and live there. Then she told me that I could take the empty desk behind the filthy little Indian boy if I could stand the stink of him. There was a native Indian boy sitting in the back corner of the room, and there was an empty desk directly behind him. So I was told I could take that desk anyway if I could stand the stink of the filthy little Indian boy. That was my introduction to that school, and it went downhill from there. Oh, that woman didn't like me. She didn't like me at all. You know, she regarded me as a trespasser, and she didn't like me. And she made it clear that she didn't like me in a multitude of ways. And anyway, I'll tell you one story. At one day at lunchtime, when everybody went out of the room, I'd go back over to the convent and have my lunch, you know, over there. It was just next door. But she, normally that's what I do, but she says to me, she says, you stay behind. I want to talk to you. And I didn't know what she wanted. I figured I was in some kind of trouble, but didn't really know why I would be in trouble. But I knew she didn't like me, so I was sure she'd come up with some reason. So anyway, when all the other kids had gone, she said, come up here to my desk. She said, I want to ask you I have some questions to put to you. So I go up there and I stand in front of her desk. And she says, all right then. I'm going to ask you some questions and you're going to give me some answers. I just said, I'll answer you if I can. You know, what do you want to know? And she says, well, the first thing I want to know is about all those whores, your mother being one of them, over there. Do they entertain men over there? Are there men who come and spend the night or anything? And I said, no ma'am, that doesn't happen. I said, sometimes there's male visitors or relations show up or something visit or whatever. But no, I said, well, that's loud. I said, no, there's we don't have any men staying overnight or anything like that. And she says, I don't believe you. You're lying to me. I said, oh, I'm telling you the truth. I said, you asked me the question and I answered it. I really don't know what more I can do, you know. She says, well, never mind about that then. She said, can you see your face in the floor? I kind of looked at her. I said, pardon me? What do you mean, can I see my face in the floor? She said, when you are over there, if you look down at the floor, can you see your reflection in the floor? I said, well, no, ma'am. I can't say that I can, no. And she says, well, so you're telling me then that your mother and those other whores over there, that they keep that place dirty, that they don't clean that place properly? I said, no, ma'am, I didn't say that. I just said I can't see my reflection in the floors. The floors are clean. I just can't see my reflection in them, that's all. She says, well, I'll tell you something, young man. When the sisters were there, they kept the floors in that place so polished that it was like a mirror, and you could see your reflection in those floors. And I said, well, they're clean, but no, you can't see your reflection in them anymore. I guess they don't polish them, they just wash them, that's all. Anyway, she says, well, again, I want to get back to this business about men, because I know you're lying to me about that, and I want to know the truth. You're going to tell me the truth. And I said, I have told you the truth. You know, I said, there's no men staying the night there or anything like that. That isn't happening. And that's the truth. And she says, well, you know, you're nothing but a liar. You disgust me. I can't stand to look at you. Leave. She said, get out of my sight. I don't want to see you anymore. Get out of my sight. You're nothing but a liar. Anyway, that was fine. I just left, you know. I went back over to the old convent and had my lunch, you know. Came back at 1 o'clock to resume the ordeal. But, yeah. Anyway, it was pretty rough. That was my experience there. There were other things that happened too. Yeah, I may tell other stories about that place, but that was the gist of it anyway. I didn't like the place. The atmosphere there wasn't good. That particular teacher was not a happy person, and she was fairly well determined that nobody else was going to be happy either, and she really didn't like me. She had it in for me right from the start because she knew who I was and where I was coming from, and so she was really mad at me. And that's how it goes anyway. You know, what are you going to do, eh? My grandmother, my dad's mother, used to say it takes all kinds and we've got 'em. And I think she was right. Anyway, that's it for now. That's the story. I've called the people that I work for, the neighbors that I work for sometimes, because they have a cat rescue, and I left a message for the lady over there asking her if she can advise me as to what I should do about Rocky with his situation with his bowels not working. He's not doing very well, I'll tell you that right now. He's really not, and I'm at my wit's end. I don't want to lose him, but he's sleeping right now. He doesn't seem to be in pain, but he's having trouble. Poor little guy. He's having trouble though walking, you know, in his rear legs and stuff. He seems to be weak in his rear legs and stuff like that. He can still walk, but he's struggling, and he's kind of listless and wanting to sleep all the time, and he isn't eating as much as he usually does. He's not eating very much at all now, just having a little nibble here and there. He's still peeing, so that part of his plumbing is working good. The liquid part, it's just the solid waste removal end of it where he's having difficulty. Anyway, that's a problem we need to get sorted out. All right, we'll talk to you later.